This podcast is making me extremely hot.
We can turn the air down.
Well, maybe it's
we can
we
pause.
started because we were
I'll
almost.
turn it down. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. Hello, Liz.
Hi, Lee.
And hello we have a very special guest. Erin Santos-Primis is here today joining us. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to see you guys.
Thank you. It's good to see you. For anybody who somehow may not know yet about Erin and her story and her work, we are here to introduce you to that and many of the things that you do. So, Erin started the Isabella Santos Foundation in 2007 when your daughter was diagnosed with a brain tumor. Is that right?
No, it was actually neuroblastoma. It's
Okay.
actually in your on your adrenal gland inside your stomach.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
I'm glad you clarified that
Yes.
because Liz's grandson
Correct.
had a medullablastoma, which
Right.
was brain.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Ours rare as well, but in the on your adrenal gland.
Okay.
How long ago was that?
So she was diagnosed in 2007 when she was 2.5.
And how long did she live?
She lived 5 years, so she passed away in 2012. She was 7.
God, I can't even imagine. I mean, I have gone within the last 3 years through something similar, but I can't even imagine. And the work you're doing, that's what we want to get to.
Right.
You started your foundation when your child was diagnosed.
We did.
Wow.
We thought it would be smart to do like just a little 5K in our area. We raised $7,000. And the reason we kind of kept doing it was because she wanted to do it, which I think is why we're still around today, because you find, and listening to your grandson speak as well, when you get through this process, you realize not very many of them are like that. A lot of them are very shy, very introverted. The families don't want to talk about it. But Isabella was a lot like your grandson, where she was up on stage.
Yeah.
She was on the news. She was asking everyone to come to things. So we just kind of took her lead, and then it kind of started to grow. I mean, we'd be in Target and she'd be like stopping people and, with a little bald head and a princess dress on, like she would be giving random people hugs. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it just started to take off. I mean, it was definitely a little bit of a burden while we were going through things, because we were going back and forth to Sloan Kettering in Manhattan, like your grandson was with the travel. But she just loved it. And then my other kids started to love it, and it just became something that we just had to do. And she would relapse right before the event, and it was just made it 10 times worse. But we just, she was just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to get out of this hospital because the race is Saturday. So I mean, what am I supposed to do?
So her spirit, it was just a bright spirit that you've just carried this on through, probably carried you guys through some of the most painful times of your entire, is there a harsher pain? I mean,
no, I think death of a child and all of the stuff that not only like every single relapse was hard, but then, after 5 years and 5 relapses and watching her be so upset every time it would happen. Plus, I mean, the death of a child is just wrecking. And then what happens to a marriage after and your kids and all of that stuff. We got divorced 2 years later, which happens a lot when you lose a child. But it's just the aftermath of all of that stuff and having to start over and everything. It's a lot.
It's tragic.
Yeah.
Will you back us up a little bit
Sure.
to her diagnosis? You said at 2 years old she was diagnosed?
Yes.
And why you knew to go to the doctor, and then the journey that you went on.
At 2.5, when a child is telling you their back hurts, their stomach hurts, you think nothing about it, because it's, they're playing and they're jumping and wrestling, and it's always where their car seat hits and different things like that. So we just kept thinking she had a deep bruise. It was, Mommy, rub my belly. Can you rub my back at night? So it's nothing out of the ordinary. It's not like some of them where they have trouble walking and you're like, something's wrong. So we just kept taking her to the doctor. The pediatrician kept sending us home and saying constipation, bladder infection, and just kept sending us home. And finally we were like, you know what, let's just go get blood work done. And that came back abnormal. And then they're like, get an MRI, and then stage 4 tumor.
Stage 4 at
Stage
the
4.
diagnosis.
Stage 4. And so you being the mom, you kept at it. And I think there's something to be said about that.
It's what your daughter did.
So my daughter did that too. The doctors were like, it's fine. He just needs to rest more, get off of his screens, his headaches or just that. So it takes sort of a mom bear to sort of go after it. And what can you say about the medical world on that? I don't know that it's improved on that.
It's so hard, because I think it's like most things in the world today that you have so much trust in what people say. And I'm kind of like, do you really know?
Yeah.
Like, is that really true? When we were diagnosed, we just thought, okay, this is our treatment plan. This is what we do. This is where we stay. But then when we started researching it ourselves, we were seeing kids with neuroblastoma were not living more than 6 months if we stayed in Charlotte at the time. Now, this was a long, long time ago for Levine Children's Hospital. And so we found out, hey, it looks like all these kids are surviving at Sloan Kettering. And they're like, oh, yeah. And I'm like, wait, what do you mean, oh, yeah?
You could have mentioned that.
Yeah. I mean, like
Thanks
we
for
were
sharing.
signed up to do this whole thing with you guys, and no one even told us there were other options. So, I mean, after you go through this, you realize that, I mean, I became someone that those doctors freaking hated.
That's what my daughter says. You're not there for a popularity contest.
No, I mean,
Not
they see
at
me
all.
walking down the hall and they're like, oh my God, here she comes. But I mean, I would sign against doctor's orders. I put her on treatment plans that weren't what they suggested. I was just like, I'm taking this over. And if I wouldn't have done that, she would have lived 6 months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it made me like the person I am today, which is, intimidating and a little scary. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
It's confidence.
And also empathetic. I'm
True.
sorry, you're a strong woman, and that's the whole point of empowering women. That's what you do through your foundation, is to empower women to own themselves and get out there, and if they need be, cross some hairs with people.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's actually also who supports us. Like we try to tell these, our foundation has been built pretty much off of your base as well, which is these moms that we're kind of saying, you know what, you guys can make huge changes, and probably 80% of our money comes from moms that come to events and are just like, I'm giving because if this were my kid, this is how I would want someone to give. Right. So we tell them your impact is big. You can be strong and scary just like us and get shit done. And that's kind of what we do.
Well, it's amazing that we have both of you in our community who are standing up to be a voice for women, a voice for children who don't have one, for pediatric cancer, for strength, for anything. And I think, not to be at all in a tangent, but being around people in the medical facility who are not listening to you, who are not really letting you advocate. And we're kind of not taught, but socially to be a little bit smaller, and it's offensive if you use your voice. And I think that every time you do that, you are fighting for your child's life. I mean, that is really important, whether it's fighting for your child's life or your child's rights or yourself or our community. Yeah. I mean, to have women who are blazing a path is just really incredible. So,
well, and I think you have to when you have a diagnosis of rare cancer. Yeah. It's not like we have leukemia that has a 90% cure rate and everyone's following this treatment plan. And yes, it's terrible and awful, but the majority of them are surviving. When you've got a 40% cure rate and 0 if you relapse, I'm like, this isn't going to work for me.
Wow. So such a rare cancer. I'm not even sure how did she feel?
These kids, it's so different when these kids are diagnosed, right? At 2, she didn't know any different. Right. And also she was at Calvary Preschool, and she'd walk in there with a bald head, and none of those kids treated her any differently. Yeah. Now, some of these kids that have osteosarcoma that are 15 and they're in high school, I don't even want to think about how they have to go through that. But for her, and my son that was born 18 months after her, they didn't know any different. So it's just... They just grew up with this. So she was pretty good about it in the beginning. But as time started to go on and we would relapse and then she'd lose her hair again, I mean, it definitely took a toll on her. And that's where at the end I knew that she wanted to be done too.
How often were you at what's it called? The name of the hospital again?
Sloan Kettering.
Sloan Kettering. How often would you go there and stay there and
lived? We lived
so
on
a house
82nd Street and East End down by the hospital, and we got an apartment for different periods of time when she relapsed in the brain, and we just kind of became people that, we were New Yorkers for a long period of time, and we would come back when we could, when Charlotte could do something, and they would work together, but they were doing a drug up there that you couldn't get anywhere else. And we would go up there and there'd be 140 kids with neuroblastoma, and you would come here and there'd be 4.
Wow. Now that you've got this foundation going, and we talked on the phone the other day, and you said you make sure you send your money to different hospitals. Now, I'm a big St. Jude donor, obviously, for my grandson. But the point is they have a great money-making machine there, and please continue to give to St. Jude. But your point was, I'm really spreading the love,
right,
and spreading the money within different hospitals. And tell me why and how that's done.
So probably for the first 15 years, we gave here locally because I did want it to be, we were able to leave and figured out how to do that. But a lot of people don't want to leave their schools, their family, their church, what have you, and they have to stay. So probably about for the first 15 years, we probably pulled $7 to $8 million into Levine to get them to where they are today, so that there's kids from 24 different countries now coming here to Charlotte to get treated, because not everyone wants to leave. So we've done a lot here, but I think that you also start to realize Charlotte seems so big, but then you go to other places like a St. Jude's, an Atlanta, Texas Children, you start to see that wow, Charlotte is so small.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting that you and I have in common is trying to convince people in Charlotte to give and not have the money stay here.
Right.
Because everyone's just like, no, I want it to stay locally. I want it to stay locally. And I'm like, okay, do you want it to stay locally, or do you want to have it, not that it can't make a difference here in Charlotte, but if we send it somewhere else, someone's doing a trial for medullablastoma in Charleston. Does it matter that the kid is in Charleston or that the kid is here?
That's a very good point.
So trying to what am I trying to say?
Rewire
people to say that changes like this happen. Leukemia was changed because they just changed the order that they gave the drugs.
Right. Wow.
They didn't come up with a new, drug anywhere. They just changed the way they gave it. So, those things can happen.
But you need studies to do that.
Right.
And that's what you're supporting.
Right.
And so if the end goal is to support children with cancer, it doesn't matter where you're sending money.
It does not.
The end goal is for children to be helped with that new research. Right now, the research that's going on, and we've learned this from St. Jude, 2 years maybe before Cameron was diagnosed, he might have had a whole different treatment and might not have made it. It is constantly changing.
Yeah.
And so this money that you're funneling into these great teaching hospitals or wherever they're doing the research is huge. So tell me what kind of money we're getting ready to make here in Charlotte. I'm going there.
Yes.
Right?
Hopefully, we want to give $1 million this year, $2 million next year, $4 million next year. I know that with St. Jude's, while it is fabulous, not everyone gets into St. Jude's.
No, we were
so
fingers
you guys
crossed.
were very lucky that you were able to do that. So a lot of people are like, did you look at St. Jude's? And I'm like, yes, but not everybody can do that. So if you can't, then what do we do next? So the hope is, we're going to be supporting 3 big proposals this year, one at Atlanta for osteosarcoma, which is a bone cancer, one at Texas Children for neuroblastoma, and one actually out of Chapel Hill for brain tumors.
Wow.
And then we're also in talks with Charleston for a medullablastoma trial, which is interesting for you guys as well.
Yeah,
so we're just trying to branch out a little bit, and also to know that not only is it important for what Isabella passed away from, I'm sure as you know, when you meet other kids, no cancer is better or worse than another. So now we're just kind of trying to help everybody. So the hope is to raise as much money as we can and know that every single dollar that we can send, we got to send.
Exactly. And what we also learned from my grandson going through it is these, like St. Jude, they're in touch with Charlotte doctors here in Charlotte.
Yes.
No one is like, this is our territory. We've got the research. You can't have it. All you have to do, there's a network that goes on. So to your point about we want it to be local, it's all intertwined throughout the national and international hospitals, I do believe.
Absolutely. It's about overall awareness and research. And pediatric cancer is pediatric cancer, whether or not it's here, there, elsewhere, and money is money, wherever it is. Tell me about how in the world do you find I understand the drive, but while you're supporting your daughter through cancer and your whole family to create Isabella Santos Foundation the year she is diagnosed. This isn't like an after heal the wound. This is during.
Yeah, I think most families with cancer will say the network of people they had around them made it possible. And like I said, we were at Calvary Preschool. And that place is just absolutely massive. And when you know a 2-year-old little girl's diagnosed with cancer, that whole community surrounded us. We lived in Ballantyne at the time, and it was things just really kind of took off. I also blogged along the way. There wasn't TikTok and Instagram and all that back in the day. So I started a blog called CaringBridge.
Do you still have it?
I still do. I actually bound it into a book. It's 3 books long. Can you believe that?
I can believe that. And it probably
gosh.
helped you survive, and then in turn is helping other people navigate their own course of treatments.
It did. I started it out to kind of write about so that I wouldn't have to respond to everyone who was asking what we were doing. And then I kind of took it upon myself and used it more as a diary. And then I kind of forgot people were reading it. And I think that's where it started to take off. My mom would call me and be like, you can't write that. And I'm like, stop telling me what to write because otherwise it's not going to be real. So by the end of it, we had like 750,000 people that were reading it. So that's of course back before social media and stuff, but that's just kind of how it took off.
Do you still, are your books still for sale?
They're not for sale. I just have them myself.
Okay.
But everyone keeps saying you should write a book because it's all there.
Well,
but
it's already
kind of
there.
like I keep debating on whether or not I want to go back because I struggle with this thing of always being known as this, and I have other children, and now I'm remarried, and he has children. That it's kind of like I need to start making this my job and not my life for the sake of the other people that are in my life. So I think kind of writing a book would just throw me back in, and I don't know if I want to do that.
Well, that's a good point. But on the flip side of that, in case you do, it's also a good way to, and here's that book.
Right.
And also, I am the mother of, how many children do you have now between you and your new husband?
So we have 5.
Right, okay.
Yeah, we have a lot.
There's a lot going on. But there's that piece of work, and your work has been on behalf of so many children. It's just another side to look at it, because I'm actually in the midst of doing that
you just
myself.
want a partner
Are you doing
to
I want somebody to suffer like me.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Misery
maybe
loves company.
Maybe if I got a ghostwriter and I could just step away from it a little bit, but it's just kind of
We'll talk
it's
after.
Tough. Yeah,
We'll talk
after.
But that is, I definitely thought about that a lot. Separating yourself from, ISF and Erin.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it can take your whole life over, and in a way you want that to. You want Isabella's legacy to live on. You want to be helpful, but how hard has it been, and where have you gone in that journey to where you are today about just being Erin sometimes and not the face of something that is in a way tragic?
It comes and goes. My son, who's 18 at Myers Park, he has taken on ISF and he speaks at events, and it's really become who he is today. My 14-year-old daughter has gone the opposite way. It's made her a little introverted. So, that's happened. And then I have time periods where I'm really into it. But then there's sometimes where I want to go out with my husband and have drinks and
talk about
be an idiot. And when a woman walks up to me and she's like, oh my gosh, I know who you are. And I'm like, I'm 4 bourbons in. And she just came to an event last week.
Yes.
So, there's times and places for it, but it's just, it's tough. It's tough. So I think you got to hit me at the right moment. But also being married again, I also get to be Mrs. whatever that is too, as opposed to, it's funny, we call our house the Primtose house because both of us have a name that we don't want to give up, because he's got a name of Primis that he has built a network with, and I'm Santos and I built a network. So it's like we can't figure out how
Did
to
you take
mold
his
it.
name? No? Yes? No.
Are you hyphenated? Are you going with the Santos
He's got a
Primis?
tattoo he's got to get removed for me to fully take the name that he's in removal for right now, but that thing has got to go.
That's fun.
That's
first.
funny.
This is good. This is good. We need to bring him on.
Yeah, I know.
I'd
So,
like to
but
see
I'm
that.
working towards it. But it's hard for me to not be Santos.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that? If not totally fun, but going through a divorce after a tragedy. I mean, I would imagine to lose a child that puts immense pressure on a relationship.
Yeah.
And if you want to share any insight or tips or that experience.
I'm also getting really hot.
Take it
Take
off,
it off,
baby.
girl.
Of course,
Yeah,
I
take
didn't
it
wear the
off.
right bra for this.
No, that's
so
okay.
this is
That's
good.
good.
Welcome to the real podcast.
Show those guns.
right.
Yeah, sorry. I think people just deal with pain and death in different ways.
Yeah.
And my ex-husband dealt with it in a way that wasn't healthy for me to be there anymore, and for my children. And I think you just kind of, when you're in it, you can't say this isn't working.
Yeah.
But then after she passes away and things don't get better, I'm kind of like, okay, that's got to be it for me. So in that process of getting divorced, I was awarded majority custody of the children, and I used to live in Marvin, and I sold everything I had and picked up and moved to Cherry, like right up the street up here, which I
really?
loved.
That's a cool area.
I loved it.
I didn't know you lived
absolutely
there.
loved it.
That's
yeah.
cool. Yeah.
It was great. So it was hard for my kids, but then, I'm on Bumble and I'm doing things I shouldn't be doing there. And, it's just, you go,
Ooh, that sounds
That's the real
enticing.
story.
you go through, but I was going through, death and divorce and moving and everything.
It's so much.
And
And
also
also
just
just
made my way out of it. This podcast is making me really hot.
turn the air down.
Well, maybe it's
We
because
can
we
pause.
started because we were
I'll
almost.
turn it down.
You just got hot. You took your coat off. Okay, so I'm just gonna bring this up. In the midst of the most serious thing in any human's life, losing a child, going through a divorce, trying to keep your children's mental, physical, everything health together, moving up and going. When do we get around to Erin? I mean, and you not only, in grief is 2 years out, your marriage is split up. Who's taking care of you?
Well, a lot of people were.
Yeah, well, I kind of want to know the
For a little bit.
Many different people?
Yeah, like the sexy part.
Younger people
people.
Are we
out
talking
there
about-
in Charlotte were handling my business for a little bit. I think my friends were rallying around me. And I mean, I look back at that person and I was just like absolutely reckless. And I mean, I would be on stage at these events and I mean, just like sobbing and just a mess. And I look back at who I was and I'm like, oh my gosh, I was so prickly and just aggressive and selfish. And it was I just could not figure out what to do. I just really couldn't figure out.
You can be forgiven. I'm sorry. If you're crying and you're prickly and you're selfish and your child is dead, you get so many passes on that. You get passes the rest of your life on that. So the young people that were taking care of you,
God.
sorry,
We're not
I
doing
didn't
details.
always know they were young until the next day. And
now we're talking
Anna
about-
Stallman Communications is absolutely going to kill me for having any of this talk on a podcast. But I just think that, I would have the kids 11 days and I'd have 3 days off. And then I'm just like, I have to like go out and tear it
blow
up and
something
not
off.
think about who I am and what I've been through and my kids and this, that, and the other. Because I knew Sunday at 6, they were coming right back.
Yeah.
And I had to be Erin from ISF and their mom and back on it again. So I mean, so that went for a while. You have to get that out of your system. It's like anybody that gets divorced. I mean, they do stuff that you're like, oh my God, I cannot believe I did that. But I had that too, and I had grief on top of it. So I think it was maybe just a little bit amplified.
And I think people respect the reality of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, who else is to judge that?
No.
Well, I judge it as you're not just Erin Santos, professional, amazing human that gets up and raises money, but you're Erin who needs to grieve and gets to do whatever the hell you need to do to bring yourself back together.
Well, and she was diagnosed at 30. And I mean, so by the time that we went through all of that and she passed away, I mean, I missed an entire decade of my life where everyone else was kind of, doing whatever. And I was just stuck and a mess and it was awful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was making up for lost time, I think.
Yeah. Doing that allows you then to get on not healthier because there's nothing unhealthy about that, but on a different path forward to meet your now husband, to continue to be.
He was one of those. He was one of those notches on the belt. So, and it worked
Was he?
out.
Awesome.
Okay. And then he's stuck.
Great.
Wait, what is
He's
y'all's
dying
meeting
right
and get
now,
together
too.
story?
Yeah, we need
I know.
that. Okay,
Tell
I know
us
where
that
you.
story.
Yeah.
This is the
So
good
he
stuff.
actually, funny, ISF brought us together. So his name is Blair Primis, and he was head of marketing at Ortho Carolina. And so we went to them and pitched Ortho Carolina to support ISF. He said no. And then I asked him to be on my board, and then we had to ask him to leave the board.
Really?
Well,
Be in
we
my
were having a little
bedroom, then you can be
relationship.
on the
Oh, I love
board.
that.
He left the board and we continued dating, and then
That's
COVID
awesome.
hit, and I feel like COVID speeds up anybody that's in a relationship. So it sped us up real quick, and then we bought a house together and got married, and that was it. So it's just crazy.
I love that.
And now
Yeah.
5 children together.
5 children together from 24 to 14.
Okay.
So all over the place.
Wow. That's so much fun.
I think we need to go out and drink together.
I know.
Oh, girl.
I mean, I just,
We could go off the
There's
record
so
a
much
little
here.
longer.
Oh, yeah.
But we're
Oh,
not-
yeah. There's a lot that's just, we can't even talk about today.
yeah. Oh, okay, you go.
Okay. Are you hot too? Everybody's sweaty.
Yeah.
Okay. Tell me what Isabella Santos Foundation does for
get to
children with cancer. Where does the money go and what does it do and what are you doing year round?
Yes, great job to bring that back.
the cleanup crew.
Yes. So we help spread awareness and raise funds for kids with rare cancer. So we do everything from the beginning all the way through the end and into survivorship. So we help, not only do we fund trials and basic science, but if someone is understaffed and needs a doctor, then we'll help bring that doctor in. We help do things like pay for mental health services, make sure that the kids in the clinic have the proper nutrition. I mean, every single thing that you could possibly do, we do. We try to stay a little bit away from the family services area because I think there's a lot of organizations that are doing meals and gas cards and all that stuff really well. So we try not to get too much into that. We actually try to be a little bit more into the science of it. And I think that's just after you lose a child, you realize that like you don't need those gas cards.
Yeah.
Right.
If you can fix this. So that's kind of more what we focus on.
Got it. And so what's upcoming that we really want to highlight the most is this year's Mad Hatter's Tea. You have asked Liz to help MC one of the 3 days of events. So tell us what those 3 days will look like. And for people who want more information, it's got to be in the show notes, obviously, helping sell tickets, raffles, all the good stuff.
Yes. So we, as I mentioned earlier, we do really well with moms.
Yeah.
And, we put on golf tournaments and galas and stuff, but really having events that are focused towards moms and what would you do if this were your child and really getting them to see what's going on there, but also having a good time. So October 29th, 30th, and 31st, we are at Carmel Country Club for the Mad Hatter Tea Party. It's from 9 to 11:30 each day. And each day we have different MCs. Liz has been gracious enough to help on the first day. But we really try to ask people to be table captains. So the table is free. We ask you to just bring 9 of your friends. You come, dress in your best. And then we've got mimosas and fashion and food and all kinds of stuff. And it all raises money for pediatric cancer research. And then you also have a co-host.
Yes.
Maggie
Gavigan, right?
Yes, who I talked to the other day. She's fabulous as well. I love her jewelry. Love
She's
love
also
her jewelry.
delightful. She's a friend.
Yes.
So I had no idea she was doing it. She had no idea I was doing it. And we were at the same event the other day. I'm like, wow, we're doing this together. This will be a blast.
Yeah, it'd be great. And I know that you guys are on day 1, which is the 29th.
Yeah.
So we would love for your audience to kind of swarm your day and fill it. We have up to 300 seats, and I think we're about 70% filled right now.
Great.
So we've got some more seats and more tables that can be filled. So we would love any help to kind of get those filled up and have a great day that day.
Well, we'll give you guys some information not only in the show notes, but we'll throw it out on social media with Hilliard Studio Method, probably on mine too. And, newsletter. Because honestly, this could affect any of our children. This is for all of us, and I am so proud of you for not only stepping up to the plate and surviving, but really thriving through what has to be the most difficult time. And think about it, the spirit of your daughter and how she's so present at all these events. And that's why I'm really honored. Thank you for asking me to be an MC, to be, something that is so positive out of the most terrifying and egregious, horrible disease there is on the planet, I think.
Yeah, and I think with these events, we definitely don't want to just have it be a cry fest. I mean, I think that there's so many great stories out there, and people should feel good about the kids that they meet and the impact that they're making. And yes, it is hard to hear some of the stories sometimes, but there's just so many good things that have come out of this. And I think everyone always leaves and they feel really great. They don't feel like I need to go home and take a nap because I've had 2 mimosas and I've cried. That's maybe just me, but they leave feeling inspired, and that's what we want.
Great.
Well, and it's just nice to sit with you under these words of your motto and exactly what you've done of that. Turn pain into purpose and to make your life and other people's around you more powerful, more purposeful, more meaningful. And
at the end of the day, you're helping children survive cancer
and their families.
And their families. And if you could do that, you're good. That's all you have to do, really. I mean, I think if any of us could know that we had an effect on any human being, and you definitely have, that is the greatest gift of life.
Yeah. I mean, I just think, don't you think it's out there? I mean, they developed a COVID vaccine out of nowhere.
Right.
Like,
no kidding,
how
Really
in the
good
world
point.
are we still using drugs on the kids from the 50s?
So
That's insane to me. It's
agree.
out there, and every person that we go to, these doctors, I'm like, how soon do you need the money? And they're like, we have the idea. Everybody's ready. We just don't have money. And I'm like,
really? It's always the money.
It's always money. It's not science. It's always money.
Yeah, for the research. Yeah, I got it. And they run these studies, and it takes a minute.
Yeah.
Where do you think this cancer research is moving forward, and where are we missing the boat? I mean, it sounds like you are deeply in this and what's happening.
I personally think that we're going to get to the point where everybody's cancer is diagnosed based off of your own tumor makeup. It's going to be personalized treatment based off of you.
Okay.
And I think, a lot of the things that we're funding is they're saying, we're going to take a tumor sample from this kid's brain, run it through and see what works and what doesn't, and then determine what they should get. Well, they should do that
that's brilliant.
now.
Wow.
Like the fact that they're doing that and then they're banking those results so that the next kid, I'm like, no. If I have a tumor, take it out of me, run it through everything, figure out, because as you know, some of these cancers, they lose their hearing, they lose, the ability to have children, they have, heart problems, they die earlier. Like, why are we giving them the out of the box treatment? I just think that where we're going is personalized care, immunotherapy. I think tricking your body to kill the cancer itself as opposed to putting poison in it. I think it's a lot of those things. And I think that we just have to shine the light a little bit on some of these rare cancers. We can't just keep focusing on the same adult cancers over and over. And then, let's see if that works for kids. Why can't we have anyone starting this with kids? I know we're not a profitable business because there aren't a lot of kids with these rare cancers, but come on.
Right. Well, I'll give a shout out to St. Jude. They're doing a hell of a job there, but theirs is money. They're like a model. And I know not as much as I wish I did know about their money making machine, but they have figured it out, and they do seminars for other businesses, whether they're cancer or not, on how to make money. And that's what the money drives the research. So that's why this is good. Other hospitals don't have that. That's too bad they don't. There should be an answer to all of this. Yeah.
And I think also hospitals and doctors should start working together. I think that we think that they do, but they actually don't as much as they should. It doesn't feel as collaborative as you would think it would be. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, it still is a business. Hospitals don't want you to leave their hospital to go somewhere else to get better treatment. So I just don't know if it's always being told to you of what's available out there. So I wish it was a little bit more of kind of like, let's let the patient make the choice, as opposed to, you live in Columbia, South Carolina, so you go to this hospital. Let's lay out everything. Let them figure out what they want to do, because then if the child survives or not, you need to feel good about your decision.
To go back, when you're in that pain of, oh my gosh, like I'll go to my grandson and my daughter and her husband, he's got a brain tumor. Oh, it's super rare. We're going to see if we can get you into St. Jude or Boston Children's. And they, within 12 hours, they get the call. They're doing a study in St. Jude. And they'll take him. That was really great luck. But what in the experience of the St. Jude was, we saw them talking to other doctors. But
that's great.
I don't know that is a common thing. I didn't realize that. But we saw them talking to somebody else in Switzerland, something. And maybe they were a St. Jude person there.
An affiliate, maybe.
Probably were. I don't know. But they were getting so much data from all places, all fast. And I guess that's the beauty of
St.
Jude's model, with the research being so well funded. So you're doing what you can do. We're hoping that more people will give money during this event on the 29th, 30th, 31st. And I don't know what you're asking, but I'd say double it. If you're coming to the event, double it.
You are hired.
Go, girl.
Do it.
I was going to do that day, but I think all on you. Yeah. No, I agree. I agree.
What's more important? Truly.
Well, and what I respect so much and have learned so much today is you're not just standing up at a pretty event with lots of people asking for dollars and just giving it. You are pounding the pavement, meeting with doctors, with hospitals to advocate for change in the system, not just here's our dollars and now let's go. I mean, it's really impressive.
Yeah. I mean, we could write a blank check to just your local place just to keep it local all the time, but like that's just not always going to be the answer. So people have to retrain their brain here.
Right.
I love the way you've thought this out, and you've been on your feet doing it for a long time.
Yes, I have.
It shows.
I'm trying to get out of it.
Well, yeah. Well, that's all right. You've got
Where's retirement?
Yeah.
I think we all feel the same.
I've been asking that. What is that retirement age?
No, I want to go work at Boehm for a couple of years and just
scoop some ice cream somewhere.
Exactly.
Pour drinks. I'll go to Martin.
No, it goes to show how successful you've been with a 3-day event.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible.
I'm excited.
So we hope that everybody goes. We hope that everybody can turn your pain into whatever purpose it is, that there's that light on the other side. And then we're just grateful for all that you are doing, for spending time with us today to shine some light on this and get to know you better and promote this event and everything else, the whole foundation.
It's been great getting to know the two of you. I feel like I've always known of you, and sitting here, I'm like, oh, I want to have you guys for dinner.
Yeah.
Well, okay.
Oh, you're coming to class. Let's start there.
That's right.
Claire, we're coming. We're coming. And just a little before we go, I'll be there the 29th, so you will be needing to bring your purse because you'll need to do a little bit more than you expected. And I don't know who's going to be. I don't know who's going to be doing it the other 2 days.
Paige failing.
Oh my God!
best.
Okay,
Yes.
Paige, she's amazing.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, let's just come have fun.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yes.
Let's have some fun together. But this has been fun. Thank you for
Yes.
joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is fun. So, love you.
Love you.
New.
Love
Yes.
you. Love you.
And
Love you all.
let's go take care of our kiddos.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks for listening to us today, wherever you get your podcasts. And remember, you can now find our podcast on YouTube.
Yeah. If you liked it, please share, rate, and review. We love 5 stars. And we hope you'll work out with us online or in studio at HilliardStudioMethod.com.